Did anybody notice the number that was put out there? The number for Rebel Moon Part 2? 21.4 million views this week. 21.4. Anybody see the significance of that number? Zack Snyder and Rebel Moon Part D, The Scargiver. We have numbers, everybody, and it's kind of interesting when it comes to these numbers, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but when it comes to the conversations that I have about Rebel Moon, and I have a lot of conversations about Rebel Moon, obviously being in the Snyder community, there's just a lot of conversations when it comes to it. And then, of course, when it comes to just seeing the reaction online. And yeah, I mean, I've seen that just everything, it's a disaster. It's so bad. It's all this. It's all that. I understand what is going on when it comes to what they're doing and how they have the Snyder cut, a director's cut built into the whole thing. Because it's like, hey, if you want to make your movie, you got to bring us this movie. And I'm just kind of going like, yeah, no other studio would give Zack the opportunity to make his crazy R-rated heavy metal sex and violence movie without giving like this movie right here that is family friendly and is kind of just like run by the numbers with some cool action sequences, of course, action and story and whatnot. So it's like one of those things. But, you know, at the same time, it's like, that's what was in the contract. We'll see if this actually works when it comes to that. It is pretty crazy that when it comes to the numbers of the first, let's see, what was like the first week, I guess you could say, or the first 6 days or whatever the hell. Did anybody notice the number that was put out there? The number for Rebel Moon Part 2? 21.4 million views this week. 21.4. Anybody see the significance of that number? 214? Oh! Anybody? 214? I mean, I'm sure it's a crazy coincidence, but it is weird that 214 was so significant when it came to the Snyder Cut. And then all of a sudden, you know, Rebel Moon Part 2 gets 21.4 million views this week. Now, obviously, that's not start to finish. That's not how they measure all that stuff. But yeah, it was just like, what? That is absolutely crazy that it was that number. And it worked. Now we got another graph when it comes to original movies. I think it's original Netflix movies. They kind of like gauged them and like, okay, so here's where Rebel Moon and Rebel Moon Part 2 stand when it comes to original Netflix movies in their first week. So here we go right there. You know, it's not at the top, not at the bottom, but there it is. So both of them right there. Murder Mystery 2, which I didn't even see, is the top dog. So is The Mother. And then you got Extraction 2, Leave the World Behind, which I watched that movie. That movie was crazy. I don't think I watched Extraction 2. I'm not going to lie. Glass Onion, of course, that one. But Rebel Moon Part 2 got 23.9. And then you got Rebel Moon Part... What did I say Part 2? I meant Part 1. Part 2 got 21.4. So, at the bottom, at the top, you know, of course, everybody's looking at the views and they're kind of wondering like, oh man, are they going to actually greenlight the sequels? I don't know. I think it's all depending on the director's cuts. That's the thing. It's all about the director's cuts. I mean, again, we have to realize, I mean, even if you don't agree with it and you're going, what the hell are they doing? I wanted the original. And I get it. Because when I've watched these two versions, I just go like, yeah, there's stuff missing in there. This is Zack pulling his punches. It's exactly what it is. He's going like, all right, I'll give you this, but man, I'm going to give you something else that's going to be absolutely batshit crazy. And I think the buildup of that is because look what, and I think I even said this on Monday's show, but I'm going to say it again. It's like, when it came to the first Rebel Moon coming out, people were like disappointed, and then they were like, I think I lost the hype for the sequel. And then when it came to the sequel, everybody's been talking about it for 2 weeks, and there's been a lot of word of mouth. Even if they hate watched it, still got the views, because I think that's what they care about more than reviews, of course. And then it seems like the same thing is going to happen when it comes to the director's cuts. It's like everybody's going to just watch the director's cuts, and it's going to be interesting to see the reaction when it comes to that. Now, if they do any more sequels, if they do Rebel Moon 3, and of course they want to do like a whole other trilogy that's like going to be coming out. They want to have it like 6 movies total. Now, if they do that whole thing, it's like now are they going to just go, you know what? We're not even going to do the PG-13 cuts. We're just going to do what Zack wants. That's what's going to be interesting. So I totally am like all for like what they're doing, because it's kind of like a different kind of thing. And the way that Zack and Debbie have been selling the director's cuts and how different it is, to the point where it's going to have different subtitles. Like when it comes to the title, it's going to be Rebel Moon, not the Scargiver, not the Child of Fire. It's going to be different when it comes to that, and different takes and different tones. And I already know how Rebel Moon Part 1 starts off, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I didn't read the novel, but I talked to somebody who read the novel. You could probably guess who that is. And I was like, how does it start? Oh, that's how it starts. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense that it starts off like that for this character. Okay. That makes sense.